Good evening. My name is Engineer Chris. This is your channel, Livestock Feed Production. Today, we are continuing from where we stopped yesterday, which was on palatability of some feed ingredients. Today, we shall be talking about digestibility of some feed ingredients. It is very necessary and is needed. Is a knowledge and a very big factor that you need to know and have before you go into feed production. You can't just dive into feed production without knowing all this essential knowledge. We talked about palatability, you knowing the ingredients that you are to choose that is most likable by your livestock. Today we shall be talking about the digestibility of those ingredients. Now, what is digestibility? Digestibility is the fitness of something for digestion, or the percentage of a foodstuff taken into the digestive tract that is absorbed into the body. Now, the rate at which all these feedstuffs digest is what we call digestibility. Now, that rate at which they digest is very essential in feed production because you cannot just feed your birds anything. They can eat it, the ones that are palatable, but it might remain in their system without getting digested easily. And it's the more they absorb the nutrients from whatever food they eat. That is how they are going to grow. If they don't absorb any nutrient, there is no growth in them. So, today we have a list of some of the ingredients that we shall be talking about. We shall talk about maize, rice, cassava, soya beans, fish meal, groundnut cake, blood meal, pancake cake, rice bran, brewer dry grain, wheat offer, corn bran, and cassava peel. Now, why did I list all this? Wheat could be there, millet could be there, and so many other feed ingredients. But these are the ones that are very, very common that we can easily find, and they're a little bit cheaper. All we are in this channel to do is to teach you how to produce a quality and cheap feed, no matter where you are. Now, let's go to the energy content. Now, if your bird should eat food and they don't get easily digest, if the body does not absorb it easily, it means that your bird is not going to grow well. In my next video, we shall equally be talking about digestibility in fish and in other livestock. But today, let's base specifically on broiler. Now, let's talk about the energy content. The energy ingredients or the food that gives energy to birds are maize, wheat, millet, rice, cassava meal, those and so many others. Those are some of the energy giving food that we incorporate into our feed production. Now, the digestibility of maize is very high. It is around 85 to 90%. So when you incorporate maize in your feed production, you are good to go. And remember yesterday we talked about the palatability. The palatability of maize is equally top notch. It is very high. So when the palatability is okay, come together with the digestibility, you are good to go. That ingredient is the first ingredient you need to make use of. Irrespective of the price though, thank God that maize is something universal, so anyone can easily get it. No matter how high it goes, it will definitely come down. Now in Nigeria, maize is expensive. Don't worry, our next video will be talking about the inclusion ratio, inclusion rate of all this. Alright, so the next one that has a very high digestibility too under the energy content, under the energy ingredient is rice. Rice has like 85 to 90. Rice is a very good source of carbohydrate and a high energy content, even though maize has higher energy than rice. But if you use rice in place of maize, which people hardly do because rice is not even cheap, especially in Nigeria, except if you're a farmer. But for you to incorporate it into feed, It gives an excellent feed, but the cost might not be here. It might really be very, 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 very high. Now, another energy source ingredient again is cassava meal. Cassava meal is a very good energy source and is easily available and a little bit cheap. It has like 70 to 80% digestibility. So if you give it to your birds, incorporate it with other feed ingredients, your bird will do excellently well. It will digest in a faster time. Now let's talk about the protein aspect, the protein ingredient source. And the protein ingredient source, like soya beans. Soya beans has a very sweet, perfect, high quality palatability. So is its digestibility. So soya beans may has like 85 to 90% digestibility. So if you incorporate it with any other ingredients in energy source like maize or rice, you are good to go. Now, another one is fish meal. Fish meal equally has a very high one, 85 to 90. Just the same thing with soya beans. The digestibility is okay. But the problem with it is, and the palatability is equally good. But if you add it too much for broiler, the taste, it makes broiler sometimes not to rush the food, even though it's very okay. It's very rich in protein, animal protein. But the palatability of fish meal, you can't compare it. When it comes to broiler rolling, you can't compare it with soya beans. Soya beans seems to be the top notch. And secondly, fish meal is very, very expensive. It's very, very expensive. That's why soya beans sit top the charts. Then another one is granite cake. Granite cake has like 75 to 85%. The palatability is moderate, not too high, but the digestibility is up to 85%. You can incorporate it, but remember, we shall talk about the inclusion ratio in our next video so that you don't exceed some certain percentage. If not, it will become a problem to whatever to the broiler that is eating it. Now we talk about the blood meal. Blood meal is another protein source. Blood meal has like 75 to 85%. Excellent, but there is a clause to it. The palatability of blood meal is very, very low. And is very, because of the flavor, is less attractive to birds to pick. If you're putting blood meal in broiler feed production, you should not exceed 5%. If not, it might become hazardous. The birds might not eat it, even with its very high digestibility. Have you seen where the problem lies? With its high digestibility, you can still make use of that to a very high percentage. Now let's talk about the fiber nutrients, or the fiber ingredient rather. Now pancake cake, rice bran, brewer dry grain, all these has 60 to 70% digestibility. That is for source of fiber. You know what fiber does to the body? It helps in digestion. But now, see the problem with it. You saw that PKC, which is pancake cake, has a very awesome digestibility, 60 to 70%. But do you know that the palatability of pancake cake is very low? So if you are including pancake cake in your feed production, you must be very careful. You must be very, very careful. If not, your birds might not like it because of the taste, and it might easily go rancid because of the oil content in it. Now, rice bran has the same digestibility with pancake cake, which is around 6 to 70%, but rice bran has the highest palatability. If you incorporate rice bran, even though it has a percentage, inclusion rate of rice bran should not even exceed 10%. It should not exceed 10%. Even with its high palatability, the digestibility is a little bit low, So that's why we tell you that, you see, you need to marry the two, digestibility and palatability, before you go into proper feed production. You must know all those things. Now, the digestibility of brewer dry grain is the same thing like 60 to 70 with pancake cake and rice bran, but their palatability is not the same. So you must check the order. Now, if you talk about the palatability, rice bran tops the chart, followed by brewer dry grain, followed by wheat offer. Then corn bran, pancake cake, and cassava meal. That is for the palatability. But you see the digestibility, pancake cake, rice bran, and brewer dry grain is topping the chart. Now, wheat offer has it has 50 to 60% digestibility. Even though the palatability is okay, but digestibility is what? Low. So you must know the quantity you are adding so that it's not going to affect your birds when they eat it. So, corn bran has around 40, 50 to 60%, which is maize bran or maize offer. Then cassava peel has about 40 to 50, that is even the lowest. So you must know the quantity you are making use of in broiler feed production. All these ingredients are the ingredients that when you make use of them in feed production, is going to give you a very low cost and high quality, only if you know how to do the combination well. So please stay tuned and stay subscribed to this channel. We shall be bringing in more and more of the knowledge that you need for you to excel in feed livestock production.